And we're live, folks, beaming to you directly and live from Sydney, Australia on this beautiful Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Wherever you are, anywhere around the world and whatever you're doing right now, for the next 10 to 15 minutes, what I'll be doing is exploring today's topic, which is personal growth through fear, failure, and the darkness. And the reason why that's today's topic is because this is how I have personally, what I've experienced, the way that I have been going through my own personal growth journey over the last few years. It's primarily been through this. It's been through darkness, very dark moments. It's been through failure. A lot of fear has, it's always been there, but I've become aware of it. And that's what I really want to talk about on today's topic. And look, let's start right at the beginning. This is where Victor Aquaro always takes us during conversations when we're exploring. He's always saying, let's go back to the beginning. So let's start with the beginning. So in exploring this topic, at the beginning, we're born into this body, into this avatar. So we go from being a completely unbounded awareness or consciousness into being this constrained being that's kind of experiencing everything through this body. And our nervous system constrains that experience through our senses, so we can make sense of this virtual reality that we're in. And when we get inserted into this virtual reality, our memory is wiped. Like we reboot, we start new. So therefore, the learning experience is maximized, and our awareness is constrained. So we've got to learn everything via our senses. And, within that is the experience, and in the experience is the learning. So this is the journey that we all walk alone, yet together. So, that's the beginning. That's the start. And why is that important? It's important to understand in the personal growth journey because it brings this thing of separateness. It brings this thing of me. I am separate to the world. I am experiencing this through me. I'm not whole. I'm not part of this anymore. And we forget that all of this is happening. All of this is being generated by consciousness. So it can be a head doer, but when we're born and inserted into this life, into this world, into this virtual reality, we forget that. We forget that this is all happening within consciousness, and we have this separateness thing where it's me. Everything starts to become a process through me, and this is where everything starts to go to shit. And I know that for me personally, I'm still going through shedding that, and that's the basis of all of my growth. Because when I see what I've gone through, it's all the problem instantly starts as soon as I fall into the trap of this separateness thing. This Michael is separate to the rest of this experience, and that there's a me inside here. So as soon as that starts, the problems start to come, and I'll get to that. So we come into this virtual reality. We then experience things through this me, and we start to separate ourselves from everything, and we take our place in the herd, because of course everybody else is going through the same thing. So we're all individual in our experiences, but we're all going through the same thing. We all get here through the same mechanism. We're all launched into this program the same way, and we experience it the same way. We fall into the same trap. We all have this me thing going, and we all see ourselves separate, which is why this learning lab is so successful, because that is really where the fertile ground of learning is, in our interaction with other beings that are like me, and we're all like me together in this thing. And it can be quite hilarious when you see it from that angle, but at the same time, it can be heartbreaking and scary. So all at once. So we take our part in the herd with all of this as we're kind of working it all out, and this is where, you know, fear really starts to come into the picture, because now we're all thinking within ourselves, thinking that we're unique in that, you know, what about what X and Y and Z are thinking about me, about what I'm doing. And now fear starts coming up, like, oh, I better act in a certain way. I better be in a certain way because they might not like me, or I may be labeled as being weird, or I might get ostracized from the herd. And what happens if that occurs? I'll be alone while the herd's all together, having fun, doing their thing all together, following each other. So this is where all the fears start to get generated, and we're all going through this kind of together, all at the same time, but all to our assumption going through this alone as me, I'm separate, and everyone's thinking that they're separate. And of course, we're all banging into each other. We're all dealing with our fears. We're tripping over each other. We're slapping each other. We're judging each other. We're like fighting each other, trying to love each other and hating each other. And you've got this like hilarious comedic mayhem going on of like us trying to work shit out in this lab. And you know, this is where the program that we're hurled into, we're kind of unconscious. It takes time for us to become conscious. And what I mean by conscious is that you become aware of all of this within yourself. You become aware that you've been asleep, because we've got this program that's running that we're just automatically following without really seeing things for ourselves. You know, we're latching onto all these beliefs. We're following the herd. We're dealing with all these fears, trying to fit in, thinking that we're individual, yet being driven by our fears of fitting in with the herd. So this is what's driving our choices. It's all fear-based, but we don't know that. We're not conscious to it. So we're just working like a program, all together, you know, bumping into each other, going through this. So the program is what's primarily running us. We're primarily on autopilot until we get to a certain point in our lives where we start to see that this is what's going on. And in my case, this has happened through tragedy. This has happened through just going through so much pain, going through so much of my own shit, that you get to a point where you're like, I'm sick and tired of this. You know, let's just be honest. Let's just look at ourselves, Mike. Let's stop with the act. Let's stop with the pretending and defending this thing that you think is Michael, and everything that Michael believes and how Michael should act. And because it's all fear driven. It's all a program running on autopilot. And you know, I'm making it real by perpetuating it. So for me, that's how the process was. It was one of fear. It was one of, there was a lot of dark moments there. And that's what kind of forced me to start to wake up. So fear is something that drives most of us. And part of awakening is awakening to the fact that, Michael's driven by all of these fears to be accepted by the herd, to not be ostracized, to not be laughed at, to be taken seriously. What if I'm inadequate? What if I'm not as good as other people? What if I can't do Facebook live sessions as good as like other people? What will people think of me? They'll laugh at me. All this is fear-based shit going on inside, that when you make a choice based on fear, you're restricting your real estate. You're not spreading your wings. You're restricting yourself. So, fear is a constraining part of life. It's like a state of ignorance. And I've just got some comments coming through. Just bear with me for a tick, folks. I've got so many things to do on this panel and I'm still learning how to use it. I'll get to you, Alison. I'll get to you. So the choices that we're making in real time, we think that we're making conscious choices, but most of the time they're automated, programmed things that are just automatically happening. And our choices are based on that. Like, oh, he said something I don't like, so F you, boom. Like, it's just an automatic thing. You're not really conscious of what's going on. It's just an automated response that goes out there. And they ignored me today when I said hello. Like, F them, like I'll show them. And later on, when the time comes up and there's an opportunity to put them in their place or like make fun of them or whatever, so everybody laughs, we do it. We don't really think about it. It's just automated. It's just bang, bang, bang. Programming, robot, That's what we're going through. And everybody else is going through the same thing. And we're just like banging into each other, like causing shit for each other. And we're just in this robotic programmed shitstorm trying to work out what the hell is going on. And of course, because there's so much fear coming out from every angle and we're not conscious of it, we don't know what the hell's going on. So we're all confused as hell. And this has been the case for me big time. Like, so confused, so full of fear that not even sure how to make sense of it until there's something that happens that forces us to wake up. And for me, that was pain, that was fear, that was darkness, that was failure. And this is what brought me to the table of love. This is what beckoned me to take my seat on the table of the awakened. And even though I'm there kind of with my eyes full of sleep and one eye stuck open and, looking like a bit of a monkey compared to some of the more awakened people, hey, at least I'm on the table, man. At least I'm getting a glimpse of it. I'm seeing my own shit. So this is what I want to talk about today. This is what I want to explore today, that, being in this position is not a bad thing. Fear is not really a bad thing. Failure is not a bad thing. The darkness is not a bad thing, because they're all generated within us. They're not external things that happen to us. Like, we are that. We are the fear. We are the awakening to it. We are the failure. We are the darkness. It's not something that's being imposed on us. This is just part of the experience. And because we're so constrained in our avatar and our central nervous system and our, the way that this virtual reality is set up, it takes us time to work all of this out. And free will is the greatest mechanism for learning, because if you don't have free will, you can't learn. If you don't have the darkness, the light has no meaning. If you're not unconscious and have forgotten everything and have got no clue what the hell you're doing, then being awake has no meaning, doesn't exist. So these things are our friends. These things are good things. They're not really negative things, because the best thing about free will is that you can completely and utterly fuck everything up. Find yourself in a place where you're have reduced yourself to a tiny little piece of real estate where you're like sobbing in a corner, like totally defeated. And yet that is where you learn. That's part of being human. So free will is the magic. Free will is the rule set that allows all this stuff to happen, and that gives it all meaning, that makes it make sense. So what then is personal growth? Why are we exploring personal growth? Why is personal growth so important? Why the hell am I doing this live cast on Facebook? You know, half the time as I'm sitting here and I'm seeing the numbers go 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'm going to go live, I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't even know what I'm talking about. I don't even know what to say. Like, why am I doing this? Why is personal growth so important? Why is being awake such a beautiful process? You know, it's going through this. You know, personal growth is second by second making the choices to not be fear. In that split second that somebody says something that you don't agree with, or you think that they're making you look silly, and those feelings of inadequacy are coming up, those fears of like being embarrassed, oh, I'm looking stupid, like this person's making a mockery of me in front of everyone, what's everyone going to think? All this fear-based shit coming up, and I make fear-based choices in that real time based on that, the unconscious ones that just pop out. Personal growth is in that second, becoming awake to that, and just telling yourself, feeling yourself let go of that shit, and just saying, Michael, calm your farm, relax, bro. There's no need to like do this shit. It doesn't make sense. And in that moment, the first time you do that and you make a love-based choice, because that's what it is, that's a love-based choice, then it changes everything just in that second. And that's personal growth. Personal growth is not pretending to be spiritual. Personal growth is not pretending to be up on a stage, you know, oh, I've made it. You know, I have all this money and this status, and listen to me because like I'm going to tell you the secret to life. No, none of that is personal growth. Personal growth is not watching anything on YouTube or Facebook Live, especially from this monkey. But what it is in that split second, you make that choice. Bang. That's personal growth, man. That's where you change everything. And once you do it once, you can do it again. And you can do it again, and you start to like be filled with love inside you. That holy shit, we're all just monkeys like trying to work this out, like as if we're going to be able to know what's going on and just, you know, get over ourselves and get on. Like it's a process, and you fall in love with that process. You fall in love with everybody trying to work it out. You know, the judgment starts to subside and love starts to like come into your heart, and it changes everything. That's personal growth. This is the real deal. This is where it happens, and it usually starts, that process starts in the dark, alone, when you feel that the house of cards is collapsing down on you. But it's not a bad thing, man. It's a good thing. It's a real good thing. That's growth. That's how it happens. That's how it's happened for me. I can only talk about like my own direct experience, which brings me to the next point, which is why explore personal growth through direct experience. My big toe, Tom Campbell. If you haven't already studied it, get onto it. You know, if it's not your experience, it's not your truth. Direct experience is how we grow. We add those lessons to our being, to who we are, because we lived it. We don't need to read it and understand it intellectually. It's here, man. Like we take it on. It's in our heart because we've experienced it. And the more love-based you become and less fear-based, the more experience you have ticking over second by second, where you're making more love-based decisions instead of fear-based decisions. So you're increasing your decision space. You're giving yourself more options because you're seeing life through other people's perspectives, through other people's eyes, through all these different angles. So you're opening up the picture, of course, because you're not just seeing it from your own angle, from this little picture wherever you look. You're now opening it up. Every time you see it through someone else's eyes, the fog is lifted in that area. Like in a game where you walk on the path and the fog is lifted and it opens up a new part of the map. It's like that. And the more you're doing this every day in your interactions with other people, in the relationships that you're banging into them with, and the way you're responding and the way they're responding to you and the way you're dealing with all of this, is you start to get better at it. You start practicing more. You start flexing your love instead of your fear. And through experiencing that, something magical happens, and it's hard to put into words sometimes, but it changes everything. And you may look back at who you were just 1 year prior to that, and with an open heart and some inner hustle and some commitment to personal growth, to love, to being awakened, and watch that programming dissolve out of you. You look back and you think, who was that person just a year ago? Wow. And you feel so embarrassed. But then at the same time, you're like, don't be too hard on yourself. This is the path. This is the only way to grow. It's part of it. So it's beautiful. And everybody's going through this together, all these billions of people. And that's growth. That's personal growth. That's the journey. That's why this is so important. That's why we're doing like Facebook Lives, even though we're still got one eye open and not fully awake, still like kind of awake but half asleep and stumbling through our words and looking like a bit of baboon on Facebook Live in front of everyone, but having a laugh about it because it's funny and it's serious at the same time. That yin and yang thing going on. So, folks, fear, failure, and darkness are our friend. We need to embrace fear. We need to befriend failure. We need to fall in love with the darkness, because this is the fertile ground of fulfillment. This is what covers up that empty, confused hole inside all of us, where you're like, no matter what you do, no matter what you get, no matter what you attain, there's this emptiness of like, what the fuck is that? Why can't I just be happy? That sense of fulfillment starts to just automatically grow inside. It's weird. And that comes from being present in the moment, being conscious of our own unconsciousness. Bang, you wake up. I'm awake. And so that brings me to one of my final points, and that is to not fight your way out of this, because trying to fight your way out of it only confuses you more. Yeah, you can't fight fear with fear. And being unconscious of that creates a really frustrating dilemma. It's just like banging your head repeatedly onto the wall for years and years and years and years and years, you know, until one day you're just like, holy shit, all right, enough. My head is hurting, like I'm not going to do this anymore. So instead of fighting your way out of this, you grow your way out of it. Growing your way out of it, there's no struggle. I mean, there's struggle, but it's not a fight. It's just naturally happening. You're evolving, you're growing. The repercussions of that are automatic. You don't need to try to do anything, because who you are is the being that you're becoming is what's important. The doing that's flowing out of that being is natural. It's authentic. You know, you can pretend to be as authentic as you want, but everyone's seeing through that shit. That's like easy to see through, as well as our intent. You can talk all of the prettiest words in history, but if your intent is to manipulate somebody to achieve your own ends for whatever reason, people are seeing through that shit as well. You know, you can deny that as much as you want, you can pretend as much as you want, and you're just really making the situation harder for yourself. So authenticity is not something that you try to do. You just start to become what you are. That's authenticity. There's nothing to try to do or become with being authentic. It's just kind of happens as you're shedding your shit away and waking up. So, folks, that's enough of my ranting for this Sunday morning. For some of you, it's Saturday night and you're probably getting ready to go out. So I'm not going to hold you up like too much longer. A couple more minutes. Next point I want to make is Christian Sundberg is going to be on our LiveCast. He's our guest. Tuesday morning, 10 a.m., which is Sydney, Australia time, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the 20th of January, 11 p.m. Universal Time on the 20th of January, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 20th of January, and midnight on the 21st of January, Central European Time. Christian Sundberg is a powerhouse. This gentleman is really going to take you all into deep water straight away. And he's got a hell of a lot of wisdom to share with you guys, and just life-changing information that as you're making sense of that information and thinking about it and then moving it into your heart on a daily basis, it just starts to transform you. People like Victor Aquaro, people like Christian Sundberg have had huge impacts on me personally already, just interacting with these guys to bring them on the LiveCast. You know, so folks, we're sharing this to bring awareness to the world in our own little way, you know, and I can't do that yet, but these guys can, and that's why it's such a pleasure to interact with these beautiful beings live, not a recording that can be edited and everything. Like, in that live interaction, there's just something beautiful. So I implore you to log on and be a part of our LiveCast with Christian, because it really is going to be a special experience. And folks, of course, the Awakening Point launches on the 31st of January at midnight. If you haven't already become part of the early bird list, then you know, do so. I'm going to put the link there so you can click onto that and become part of our early bird list. That will be awesome, because like what we're really doing here is building a community that loves each other. We don't have to agree. It would be stupid if we did. A community of people that just love each other, that find this situation we're all in hilarious, but awesome at the same time, that are living life to the fullest, loving it, uplifting each other, serving each other, dancing with each other, being there with each other, being authentic in the process, balls and all. That's what this is really about. It's not about coming from a place where we're saying we know better than you, what you should be doing. No, it's not like that. This is just like, hey, let's get together and walk through this thing together. So, folks, I want to thank you for joining me on this LiveCast. And don't forget, on Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. Sydney, Australia time, Christian Sundberg. So we'll see you all then. That's going to be a huge one. Have a great weekend. I love you guys so much. Thanks for joining me. Ciao. Bye for now.